Gunner's breath misted in the cold air as he continued his ascent up the craggy mountain path. The jagged rocks underfoot shifted precariously with each step, and the bitter wind bit at his skin through his tactical suit. Despite the harsh conditions, his mind was focused solely on the task ahead. The mission to find the Starlight Gem was his alone, and the stakes were higher than ever. The fate of his team, the agency, and the world rested on his shoulders. The portal Eliana had created had brought him to this mysterious realm, a place unlike any he had ever seen. The landscape was wild and untamed, with steep cliffs and dense forests that seemed to go on forever. He knew he had to be close. The mountain's peak was shrouded in mist, and the path grew narrower and more treacherous with each step. As he climbed, Gunner's thoughts drifted back to the moment he stepped through the portal. The looks on his team's faces had been a mix of concern and determination, each of them ready to carry out their new roles while he embarked on this perilous journey. He trusted them implicitly, but he knew that they were counting on him to succeed. The weight of that responsibility pressed heavily on him, but it also fueled his resolve. The path wound around a sharp bend, and Gunner found himself facing a narrow ledge that clung to the side of the mountain. Below, a sheer drop plunged into darkness, and above, jagged rocks loomed ominously. He took a deep breath, steadying himself before carefully stepping onto the ledge. He moved slowly, each step deliberate and cautious. The wind howled around him, threatening to throw him off balance, but he pressed on, focused on the goal ahead. Halfway across the ledge, a loose stone shifted under his foot, sending a cascade of rocks tumbling down the mountainside. Gunner's heart leapt into his throat as he scrambled for a handhold, gripping the rough rock face to steady himself. For a moment he hung there, suspended between safety and the abyss below. His muscles tensed, and his breath came in short, sharp bursts. But he refused to let fear overtake him. With a grunt of effort, he pulled himself back onto the ledge and continued forward, his resolve stronger than ever. After what felt like hours, the path widened again, and Gunner found himself standing before the entrance to a dark cave. Strange, glowing runes were etched into the rock around the entrance, pulsing faintly with an eerie light. He knew this was the place Eliana had described, the gateway to the Starlight Gem. He hesitated for a moment, peering into the darkness of the cave. The air was heavy with a metallic scent, and a chill ran down his spine. He knew that whatever lay ahead would not be easy, but he also knew that he had no choice. The gem was the only hope they had against Ultranacious and the darkness that threatened their world. Gunner took a deep breath and stepped into the cave, his eyes quickly adjusting to the dim light. The cave walls were lined with crystals that glowed softly, casting strange shadows that danced and flickered in the darkness. The air grew colder as he ventured deeper, and the silence was almost deafening, broken only by the sound of his footsteps echoing off the stone walls. The tunnel twisted and turned, leading him further into the mountain. Gunner moved carefully, his senses alert for any sign of danger. He could feel the weight of the mountain pressing down on him, the darkness closing in from all sides. But he pushed forward, driven by the need to succeed. Suddenly, the tunnel opened into a vast cavern, and Gunner stopped in his tracks. The chamber was enormous, its walls rising high into the darkness above. In the center of the cavern, bathed in a soft, ethereal light, was the Starlight Gem. The gem floated in mid-air, suspended by some unseen force, its surface shimmering with an array of colors that seemed to shift and change with each passing moment. Gunner's breath caught in his throat as he stared at the gem. It was even more magnificent than he had imagined, its beauty both mesmerizing and terrifying. He could feel its power radiating outwards, a force so strong it seemed to vibrate the very air around him. He took a cautious step forward, but as he did, a figure emerged from the shadows blocking his path. It was a woman, small and slight, but with a presence that filled the room. She was dressed in robes adorned with glowing crystals, and her hair flowed around her like a living thing. Her eyes, bright and piercing, were fixed on Gunnar. "Stop," she said, her voice echoing through the cavern. "You cannot touch the gem, not yet." Gunnar froze, his eyes locked on the woman. He could sense that she was no ordinary guardian. There was something about her, something powerful and otherworldly. He tensed, ready for a fight, but she made no move to attack. "Who are you?" Gunnar demanded, his voice steady despite the tension that gripped him. The woman stepped forward, her eyes never leaving his. "I am Eli," she said calmly, "a guardian of the Starlight Gem and an alchemist of this realm. The gem is not something that can be taken by force. It must be earned." Gunnar narrowed his eyes, studying her. "I was sent here to retrieve the gem," he said. "I need it to defeat a great evil, threatening my world. Will you help me?" Eli tilted her head slightly, considering his words. "I know of your quest, Gunnar," she replied, "but the gem is not simply an object of power. It is a living entity with a will of its own. It can grant great strength, but it can also bring great destruction. The gem will test you, reveal your true nature. Only those who are pure of heart can harness its power safely." Gunnar nodded slowly, understanding the gravity of her words. "I'm ready for whatever it takes," he said. "I have to be. Too many lives are at stake." Eli's expression softened, and she gestured for him to follow her. "Then come," she said. "There are things you must know before you can claim the gem." She led him deeper into the cavern, towards a series of intricate carvings etched into the stone walls. The carvings depicted scenes of battles and sacrifices, of heroes and villains. Eli paused before one of the carvings, tracing her fingers over the lines. "These carvings tell the story of the gem," she explained. "It was created eons ago by an ancient race, a race that sought to harness the power of the stars. They infused the gem with the essence of the cosmos, giving it immense power, but they did not anticipate the cost. The gem began to feed on their emotions, amplifying their fears and desires until it consumed them." Gunnar listened intently, his eyes fixed on the carvings. "What happened to them?" he asked. "They were destroyed," Eli said softly. "Consumed by their own greed and ambition. The gem's power is a double-edged sword, Gunnar. It can grant great strength, but it can also corrupt those who seek it for the wrong reasons." Gunnar's mind raced as he absorbed her words. He knew he had to be careful, to stay true to his mission, and not let the gem's power overwhelm him. He looked at Eli, his resolve firm. "I understand," he said, "but I have to try. My world depends on it." Eli nodded, her eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and determination. "Very well," she said, "but know this, Gunnar. The gem will test you, in ways you cannot imagine. It will reveal your deepest fears, your darkest desires. You must confront them and prove that you are worthy." Gunnar took a deep breath, steeling himself. "I'm ready," he said. "Let's do this." Eli led him back to the center of the cavern, where the starlight gem floated, its light pulsating with an almost hypnotic rhythm. She turned to face him, her expression serious. "Step forward," she instructed. "The gem will sense your presence and the trials will begin." Gunnar nodded, taking a step towards the gem. As he did, he felt a strange sensation, like a surge of energy rushing through him. The air around him seemed to crackle with electricity, and the light from the gem grew brighter, enveloping him in a blinding glow. For a moment, everything went white. Gunnar felt weightless, as if he were floating in a sea of light. Then, just as suddenly as it had come, the light faded, and he found himself standing in a vast, open space. The cavern had disappeared, replaced by a barren landscape that stretched out in all directions. He looked around, disoriented. The sky above was a deep, swirling mass of colours, and the ground beneath his feet was cracked and dry. There was no sign of Eli, no sign of the gem. He was alone. Then a voice echoed through the air, low and resonant. "Welcome, Gunnar," the voice said. "You have come to claim the Starlight Gem, but first you must prove yourself worthy. Your journey begins now." As the voice faded, the ground beneath Gunnar's feet began to shake. He stumbled, struggling to keep his balance as the earth cracked open, revealing a deep chasm that stretched out before him. The chasm was filled with swirling mist, and he could hear the sound of rushing water far below. Gunnar took a cautious step back, his heart racing. He knew this was the first of the gem's trials, a test of his courage and resolve. He had to find a way across the chasm to reach the other side and continue his journey. He scanned the area, searching for a way across. His eyes landed on a narrow stone bridge that spanned the chasm, its surface slick with moisture and worn by time. The bridge looked unstable, but it was the only way forward. Gunnar steeled himself, taking a deep breath before stepping onto the bridge. The stone creaked under his weight, and he could feel it sway slightly with each step. He moved slowly, carefully placing one foot in front of the other, his eyes fixed on the far side of the chasm. Halfway across, the bridge shuddered violently, and Gunnar's heart leapt into his throat. He fought to maintain his balance, gripping the edges of the bridge as he inched forward. The mist below swirled and churned, obscuring the depths of the chasm and filling the air with an eerie glow. With every step, the bridge grew more unstable, and Gunnar could feel his resolve wavering. But he forced himself to keep going, driven by the thought of his team and the mission that lay ahead. He couldn't afford to fail. Not now, not when so much was at stake. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, he reached the other side. He stepped off the bridge, his legs trembling with exhaustion and relief. He took a moment to catch his breath, his heart pounding in his chest. The ground beneath him was solid, and he felt a surge of confidence. He had passed the first trial, but he knew there would be more to come. He had to stay focused, to be prepared for whatever lay ahead. As he moved forward, the landscape shifted once more. The barren ground gave way to a dense forest, the trees towering high above him and casting long shadows on the forest floor. The air was thick with the scent of pine and damp earth, and the sound of rustling leaves filled his ears. Gunnar pushed his way through the undergrowth, his senses alert for any sign of danger. He could feel the weight of the forest pressing in around him, the darkness growing deeper with each step. The path was narrow and winding, and he had to duck and weave to avoid the low-hanging branches that threatened to snag his clothes. Suddenly the forest opened into a small clearing, and Gunnar found himself standing before a large, ancient tree. The tree's trunk was gnarled and twisted, its branches reaching out like skeletal fingers. At the base of the tree, a pool of water shimmered in the dim light, its surface smooth and still. Gunnar approached the pool cautiously, his eyes scanning the area for any sign of danger. As he neared the water's edge, he saw something moving beneath the surface, a dark shape, shifting and writhing. Before he could react, the shape burst from the water, revealing itself to be a massive serpent. The serpent's scales glistened in the light, and its eyes glowed with a malevolent red light. It reared back, hissing loudly as it prepared to strike. Gunnar leapt back, drawing his weapon in a swift motion. He knew this was another test, a trial of his strength and skill. He had to defeat the serpent, to prove his worth and continue his journey. The serpent lunged at him, its fangs bared and its jaws wide. Gunnar dodged to the side, narrowly avoiding the strike. He countered with a swift slash of his blade, but the serpent's scales were tough, and his weapon barely left a scratch. The serpent hissed angrily, coiling back for another strike. Gunnar moved quickly, circling around the creature and looking for an opening. He could feel his heart racing, his breath coming in short, sharp bursts. But he refused to let fear take hold. He had faced worse than this. He could handle a serpent. The creature lunged again, and this time Gunnar was ready. He sidestepped the attack, bringing his weapon down with all his strength. His blade struck true, cutting deep into the serpent's neck. The creature let out a shriek of pain, thrashing wildly as it tried to shake him off. Gunnar held on, driving his blade deeper. The serpent's movements grew more frantic, but he didn't let up. He could feel its life slipping away, its strength fading with each passing moment. Finally, with a final shudder, the serpent collapsed, its body going limp. Gunnar stepped back, panting heavily. He had done it. He had passed the second trial. He took a moment to catch his breath, wiping the sweat from his brow. The serpent lay still at his feet, its eyes dim and lifeless. He knew there was still one more trial to come, but he felt ready. He had faced his fears and proven his strength. He could do this. As he turned to leave the clearing, the air around him shimmered, and the landscape began to change once more. The trees faded away, replaced by a vast, open plain. In the distance, he could see a figure standing alone, bathed in a soft, ethereal light. He approached cautiously, his eyes fixed on the figure. As he drew closer, he recognized the woman from before, Eli. She stood at the edge of a cliff, her back to him, as she gazed out over the plain. Gunnar stopped a few feet away, his heart pounding in his chest. He knew this was the final test, the last challenge he had to face before he could claim the Starlight Gem. Eli turned to face him, her expression calm and unreadable. "You have come far, Gunnar," she said softly. "You have faced your fears and proven your strength. But there is one last thing you must do." Gunnar nodded, his resolve unwavering. "I'm ready," he said. "What must I do?" Eli gestured to the cliff's edge. "You must take a leap of faith," she said. "You must trust in yourself, in your mission, and in the power of the gem. Only then will you be able to harness its power safely." Gunnar took a deep breath, stepping up to the edge of the cliff. He looked down, seeing nothing but darkness below. His heart raced, and for a moment he felt a surge of fear. But he pushed it aside, focusing on the goal ahead. He closed his eyes, taking one last breath before stepping off the edge. The wind rushed past him as he fell, his body weightless as he plummeted into the darkness. But he didn't feel fear. He felt peace. A sense of calm that filled him as he fell. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the fall stopped. Gunnar opened his eyes, finding himself standing once more in the cavern. The Starlight Gem floated before him, its light pulsating gently. Eli stood beside him, her eyes filled with warmth. "You have done it, Gunnar," she said. "You have proven yourself worthy. The gem is yours." Gunnar reached out, his hand closing around the gem. As he did, a surge of energy rushed through him, filling him with a sense of power unlike anything he had ever felt. He knew he had succeeded, that he had claimed the Starlight Gem. He turned to Eli, his expression filled with gratitude. "Thank you," he said, "for everything." Eli smiled, nodding. "Your journey is just beginning, Gunnar," she said. "But I believe in you. Use the gem's power wisely, and you will succeed." Gunnar nodded, his resolve stronger than ever. He had faced his trials, conquered his fears, and proven his worth. Now he was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together, he and Eli stepped out of the cavern, the Starlight Gem glowing brightly in his hand. The journey was far from over, but Gunnar knew that with the gem's power, he could do anything. As they made their way out of the cavern, Eli clung tightly to Gunnar, her mind racing with thoughts of the power he now wielded. They stepped through a nearby portal, emerging into an open field. The sun was just beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the landscape. They stood on top of a large stone surrounded by 7 smaller ones, overlooking the vast expanse of Lake Michigan below. Eli gasped in awe. "This is beautiful," she murmured, still reeling from the sudden change in scenery. Thank you for bringing me here, Master Gunner. Gunner laid her gently on the stone, and as she settled, she felt the power flowing through the stones beneath her. This place is a smaller version of Stonehenge, Gunner explained, his voice calm and authoritative. Amazing, Ely whispered, taking in the sight of the stone circle. Do you think we could use it for alchemy experiments? Her mind was already spinning with possibilities. With the starlight gem and this powerful location, we could create something truly extraordinary? Gunner nodded. That's the plan. This will be your lab. Eli's eyes widened with excitement as she began to envision the alchemical wonders they could achieve. What are you planning to do with all this power, Master Gunner? She asked, her voice filled with awe. You'll see, Gunner replied, his tone mysterious. Eli felt a surge of anticipation as she thought about the future. Tell me about yourself, Eli, Gunner said suddenly, his voice softer now. Eli hesitated for a moment, then began. I'm an elf, like my sister Ela, but I'm more interested in alchemy and serving others than wielding magic. I grew up in the forest, learning about plants and minerals from my mother. She paused, glancing up at him. I'm not very strong physically, but I can use my magic to defend myself if needed. She smiled shyly, her cheeks flushing. And now I get to serve you. I'm 18, still young, but eager to learn and grow under your guidance. Gunner regarded her thoughtfully. What abilities do you have? I don't have any special abilities like my sister Ela, Eli confessed, blushing deeply. But I am skilled in alchemy and can create potions that enhance physical strength or speed. And I'm very obedient, she added, looking up at him with hopeful eyes. What would you like me to do for you, Master Gunner? Gunner's expression remained unreadable. Swear your loyalty to me. I swear it, Eli promised, her voice trembling with excitement. I'll always be loyal and obedient to you, Master Gunner. Please, command me as you wish. Gunner nodded in approval. Have you ever served a human before? No, Master Gunner, she admitted, her blush deepening. I've only ever served Ela and other elves, but I'm eager to learn how to please you. Gunner smiled faintly. Let's sleep here tonight. Eli nodded, snuggling closer to Gunner. Of course, Master Gunner, she whispered, drifting off to sleep. The next morning, Gunner gently woke her. Good morning, Eli. She yawned cutely, rubbing her eyes. Good morning, Master Gunner. Did you sleep well? Gunner nodded. What is the tattoo on your body? Eli's fingers traced the intricate pattern on her stomach, a symbol of her devotion to her previous master. It's a mark of loyalty and obedience, she explained softly. My old master put it there when I swore to serve him faithfully. She looked down, her expression a mix of pride and sadness. He passed away, she whispered, but I still carry his mark with pride. It reminds me of his teachings and guidance. As Gunner looked around the open field, he noticed a large, dire wolf standing close by, watching them intently. Eli gasped, her eyes widening in fear and wonder. Master Gunner, she whispered, is that your wolf? Gunner nodded. Yes, he is my spirit companion. His name is Alpha. Eli's hand trembled slightly as she reached out to stroke the wolf's fur. Alpha, she whispered reverently. He's magnificent. What does he represent? Strength, loyalty, and untamed nature, Gunner replied, his voice filled with pride. Wow, Eli breathed out, her eyes wide with admiration. He's truly a symbol of your power and connection to nature. She looked back at Gunner, her heart full of respect and devotion. I'm honored to be by your side, Master Gunner. Gunner's expression softened slightly as he looked down at her. My mission is to hunt and destroy the evil in this world. Eli listened intently, her eyes filled with determination. That sounds dangerous, Master Gunner, she whispered, but I trust you'll keep me safe while we do it. She nestled closer, her body instinctively craving his touch and warmth. "What can I do to help?" Gunnar smiled, the weight of the starlight gem in his hand reminding him of the power he now wielded. "Together, Eli, we'll cleanse this world of its darkness." Gunnar and Eli stood on the stone platform overlooking Lake Michigan, the morning sun casting a golden hue over the tranquil waters below. The powerful energy of the starlight gem pulsed in Gunnar's hand, its glow reflecting in his intense eyes. Beside him, Eli gazed at the surrounding stone circle, her mind already spinning with ideas. "This place," Eli began, her voice filled with excitement, "it's perfect for a workshop. The energy here, combined with the starlight gem, could allow us to create weapons unlike anything the world has ever seen." Gunnar nodded, his gaze fixed on the stones around them. "We'll need a space that can harness the power of these stones and channel it into the weapons we forge. This will be your lab, Eli, but it will also be our armory against the darkness." Eli's heart swelled with pride and determination. "Let's begin then." Building the workshop. Over the next few days, Gunnar and Eli worked tirelessly to transform the stone circle into a formidable workshop. They began by clearing the central area, removing debris and preparing the ground for construction. Gunnar's strength made light work of the heavy lifting, while Eli used her alchemical knowledge to reinforce the stone pillars with enchanted minerals, ensuring they could channel and contain the energy from the starlight gem. "We need a forge," Gunnar stated one evening as they sat by a small fire, reviewing their progress. "Something that can withstand the power of the gem and the heat required to forge silver into a weapon." Eli nodded thoughtfully. "I can create a forge using the stones themselves. Their natural energy will provide the heat we need, and I can weave enchantments into the forge to contain and direct that energy." The next morning they set to work on the forge. Eli carefully selected stones from the surrounding area, each one imbued with latent magical energy. She arranged them in a circular pattern within the stone circle, creating a basin-like structure. With Gunnar's help, she inscribed ancient runes into the stones, each rune carefully chosen to enhance the forge's ability to channel energy. Once the forge was complete, Eli placed her hands on the stones and began to chant. The runes glowed brightly, and a warm golden light filled the basin. The air around them hummed with power as the forge came to life, fueled by the energy of the starlight gem. "It's ready," Eli said, stepping back to admire their work. Gunnar approached the forge, the silver dagger he had selected for the transformation in one hand and the starlight gem in the other. "This dagger will be the first of many," he said, his voice filled with resolve, "but it will be our greatest weapon." Forging the silver dagger. With the forge now active, Gunnar and Eli turned their attention to the task at hand, imbuing the silver dagger with the power of the starlight gem. The process required precision and careful timing, as the energy of the gem was potent and unpredictable. "Hold the dagger steady," Eli instructed, her voice calm and focused. "I'll begin the infusion. When I give the signal, place the starlight gem into the forge." Gunnar nodded, his grip firm on the hilt of the dagger. Eli began her work, chanting an incantation that resonated with the power of the stones around them. The forge's light intensified, and the air grew warmer as the energy built up. "Now, Gunnar!" Eli called out. Without hesitation, Gunnar placed the starlight gem into the heart of the forge. The gem's glow merged with the golden light of the forge, and the energy flowed into the dagger like molten silver. The blade began to shimmer, its surface crackling with power as the gem's essence fused with the metal. Eli continued her incantation, guiding the energy, ensuring it was absorbed evenly. The dagger pulsed with light, its once plain silver blade now gleaming with a radiant, otherworldly glow. Finally, Eli completed the ritual, her voice trailing off as the last of the energy settled into the weapon. Gunnar lifted the dagger, examining the transformed blade. It was no longer just a piece of silver. It was a weapon imbued with the power of the starlight gem. capable of cutting through darkness itself. "It's done," Eli said, her voice tinged with exhaustion but also triumph. "This dagger will pierce through any evil, but you must wield it with care. The power within it is immense." Gunnar nodded, his eyes meeting Eli's. "This is just the beginning. With this forge, we can create more weapons, arm ourselves for the battles ahead. Together we will rid this world of its darkest threats." The workshop's legacy. As weeks turned into months, the workshop became a beacon of hope. Gunnar and Eli crafted more weapons, each one infused with the power of the starlight gem and the magic of the ancient stones. They experimented with different materials, combining silver with other enchanted metals to create swords, shields, and armor, all designed to combat the forces of evil. Eli's skills in alchemy flourished in the workshop. She developed potions that enhanced the strength of their weapons, created elixirs that could heal even the gravest wounds, and brewed concoctions that rendered them invisible to the eyes of their enemies. The workshop, once a simple stone circle, had become a place of immense power and creativity, but the silver dagger remained their most prized creation, a symbol of their determination and the bond they had forged. It was the first weapon to be created in the workshop, and it carried with it the hopes of a world free from darkness. Gunnar and Eli knew that their journey was far from over. The battles ahead would be fierce, but with their workshop and the weapons they created, they were ready to face whatever came their way. The Starlight Gem had given them the tools they needed, but it was their resolve, their partnership, and their unwavering belief in their cause that would ultimately lead them to victory. And so, they continued to work side by side, preparing for the day when they would face the greatest evil of all, and emerge victorious. The workshop's next evolution, designing enhanced firearms. With their first major weapon, the silver dagger imbued with the power of the Starlight Gem, successfully crafted, Gunnar and Eli knew they had only scratched the surface of what they could achieve in their workshop. The world was filled with more dangerous creatures, monsters, demons, and beings that would require more than just blades and shields to defeat. Gunnar, ever the strategist, envisioned the next step, creating firearms capable of channeling both modern technology and ancient magic. "Gunnar, what's on your mind?" Eli asked one evening, noticing his contemplative expression as they worked on reinforcing the workshop's walls with runes of protection. "We've made a powerful weapon in the dagger," Gunnar began, his voice thoughtful. "But we need something with more range and firepower. We need to combine our magic with advanced technology, something that can strike from afar and still deliver the power to vanquish even the strongest demons." Eli tilted her head, intrigued. "You're talking about firearms, but not just any firearms, right? You're thinking of something futuristic?" Gunnar nodded. "Exactly. A rifle that can fire enchanted rounds, with a launcher capable of delivering explosive magic. A weapon that blends the precision of a sniper with the devastating impact of a rocket launcher." Eli's eyes lit up with excitement. "That sounds incredible, but it will require precise engineering and the perfect blend of materials. We'll need to experiment with different alloys and infuse them with the right enchantments to withstand the energy of both the Starlight Gem and modern ammunition." Gunnar smiled, appreciating her enthusiasm. "Then let's get started. Designing the futuristic rifle." The first step was to design the rifle itself. Gunnar sketched out the basic concept: a sleek futuristic rifle with a long barrel for accuracy, a sturdy stock for stability, and a tactical grip for maneuverability. At the underside of the barrel, they would mount a 40mm launcher capable of firing enchanted grenades, small orbs of explosive energy that could devastate anything in their path. Eli's task was to create the ammunition. She began by experimenting with different metals, combining silver, iron, and a rare mineral she had discovered in the caverns, starsteel, a metal known for its ability to channel magical energy without breaking. Each bullet had to be capable of carrying both physical force and magical power. "We'll need to engrave runes on each round," Eli explained, as she carefully inscribed tiny symbols onto the casings of the bullets. "These runes will allow the bullets to pierce through the toughest hide or armor and deliver a powerful magical impact upon contact." For the 40-minute launcher, Eli crafted special orbs filled with alchemical mixtures that would react explosively when triggered. These orbs were also infused with the essence of the starlight gem, making each explosion not only destructive, but also imbued with a light that could burn away darkness and evil. "We should test the rifle first," Gunnar suggested once the initial prototype was ready. The rifle was a work of art, sleek yet powerful, with a barrel that glimmered faintly with the magic embedded within it. Testing the weapon. They took the rifle to a remote part of the forest, far from any prying eyes. Gunnar set up targets at various distances, thick logs representing monstrous hides, boulders for demons' stony skin, and enchanted shields to simulate magical barriers. Gunnar loaded the first magazine, filled with Eli's enchanted rounds. He aimed carefully, feeling the balance of the weapon, and pulled the trigger. The rifle fired with a sharp crack, and the bullet flew straight and true, piercing through the thick log as though it were paper. Upon impact, a burst of light exploded from the point of entry, burning through the target. "Perfect," Gunnar murmured, satisfied with the result. Next, he aimed at a boulder. The bullet struck, and the enchanted runes activated, causing the stone to crack and shatter. The rifle's power was undeniable, but they still had to test the launcher. Gunnar switched to the 40mm launcher and loaded one of Eli's explosive orbs. He aimed at a larger boulder, one they knew would be difficult to destroy through conventional means. When he fired, the orb sailed through the air and struck the target with a resounding impact. The explosion that followed was magnificent, an eruption of light and energy that reduced the boulder to rubble and left a smoking crater in its place. Eli clapped her hands in excitement. "It works even better than I imagined. The launcher is perfect for taking out larger targets or groups of enemies." Gunnar lowered the rifle, his expression one of grim satisfaction. "This will give us the firepower we need to fight on our terms, but we need to ensure it's reliable in any situation, against any foe." Finalizing the weapon and preparing for battle. Over the next few weeks, Gunnar and Eli refined the design. They added an energy stabilization system to prevent the rifle from overheating during extended use, reinforced the launcher to handle more powerful explosives, and created a variety of specialized rounds for different types of enemies. One of their innovations was the creation of light rounds, bullets that, when fired, released a burst of blinding light. These were designed to disorient enemies, giving Gunnar and Eli a tactical advantage. Another was the shatter rounds, designed to break through the toughest magical shields before delivering a devastating explosive charge. The final touch was to engrave the rifle itself with protective runes, ensuring it would not be corrupted by the energy it wielded. Eli carefully inscribed the symbols along the barrel and stock, while Gunnar imbued the weapon with a bit of his own spirit, ensuring it would only respond to his commands. When the weapon was finally complete, Gunnar and Eli stood back to admire their work. The rifle, now named the Starbreaker, was a masterpiece, a perfect fusion of magic and technology, designed to fight the darkest evils. "Are you ready, Eli?" Gunnar asked, his voice steady with determination. Eli nodded, her eyes glowing with confidence. "With this weapon, we can take on anything." Into the fray. Armed with the Starbreaker, Gunnar and Eli set out on their mission to cleanse the world of the evil that plagued it. The rifle proved invaluable in battle, its powerful rounds taking down even the most formidable of foes. The launcher's explosive orbs decimated hordes of monsters, while the rifle's precision rounds ensured that no enemy could hide from its deadly reach. As they travelled from one battleground to another, stories of the Starbreaker and its wielders spread across the land. The sight of Gunnar with his futuristic rifle and Eli with her alchemical prowess became a symbol of hope for those oppressed by darkness. But their journey was far from over. They knew that greater challenges lay ahead, foes that would test the limits of their creations and their resolve. Yet, with the Starbreaker in hand and their bond stronger than ever, Gunnar and Eli were ready to face whatever the future held. Together they would continue to build, to innovate, and to fight, forging weapons of light and fire that would banish the shadows from the world. And, in the end, they would stand victorious, the darkness finally defeated, and the world safe for future generations. The air was thick with anticipation as Gunnar and Eli stood in the heart of their workshop, the walls adorned with the weapons they had forged together. The time had come for Gunnar to face his greatest challenge yet, the Demon King Ultranacious Eternus. The name itself was spoken in whispers, a harbinger of death and destruction. This was the being that had claimed the lives of Gunnar's former comrades, and now the weight of vengeance and justice lay squarely on his shoulders. Eli watched as Gunnar prepared the Starbreaker, checking each component meticulously, ensuring everything was in perfect working order. She could sense the tension in the air, the quiet determination that radiated from him. But there was something else too, a deep, personal resolve that made her heart ache. "Gunnar," Eli began, her voice soft but insistent. "I know how much this fight means to you, but we've always fought together. You don't have to do this alone." Gunnar paused, his hands stilling over the rifle's stock. He looked up at Eli, his eyes filled with a mix of gratitude and sorrow. "Eli, I appreciate everything we've done together. You've been the best partner I could have asked for, and you've helped me more than you know." He sighed, placing the Starbreaker down gently on the workbench. "But this fight, it's different." Eli frowned, stepping closer to him. "Why? We've faced powerful enemies before. What makes this one different?" Gunnar's jaw tightened, and for a moment he seemed to struggle with the words. "Ultranacious Eternus is no ordinary demon. He's not just powerful, he's relentless, cunning, and merciless. He's the one responsible for the deaths of my team, of my friends." His voice wavered slightly as memories flooded back. "They were like family to me. We fought side by side, and he tore them apart, one by one. I wasn't strong enough then to protect them, but I swore that I would be the one to end him. This is personal, Eli. I have to face him alone." Eli's heart sank as she listened to Gunnar's words. She could feel the pain in his voice, the heavy burden he carried. She wanted to argue, to insist that they could face this together, but deep down, she understood. This was a battle that Gunnar needed to fight on his own terms. "I know you want to protect me," Eli said softly, her eyes meeting his. "But you're not the same person you were back then. You've grown stronger, and you're not alone anymore. We've built something here, something powerful. I believe in you, Gunnar. But if you truly feel you need to do this alone, I won't stop you." Gunnar reached out, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Thank you, Eli. You've been my strength when I had none. But this is something I have to do for myself and for them. If I don't finish this, their deaths will haunt me forever." Eli nodded, though her heart ached with the thought of him going into such danger alone. "Promise me you'll come back," she whispered, her voice breaking slightly. "Promise me you won't let him take you too." Gunnar gave her a solemn nod. "I promise. I'll come back. And when I do, we'll continue our work. Together." She stepped back, watching as he gathered his gear. The Starbreaker, now glowing faintly with the energy of the Starlight Gem, was strapped securely to his back. Gunnar checked his ammunition, the enchanted rounds and explosive orbs that had become their signature in battle. Every detail was attended to with the precision of someone who knew the stakes were higher than they had ever been. Before he left, Gunnar turned to Eli one last time. Keep the workshop safe. If anything happens, if I don't make it back—" "Don't say that," Eli interrupted, her eyes flashing with determination. "You will come back. I believe in you, Gunnar, and I'll be waiting right here." He gave her a final grateful smile, one that conveyed more than words ever could. Then, without another word, Gunnar turned and left the workshop, the door closing behind him with a heavy finality.